Before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Lucci's Bistro was all candlelight and soft jazz, the kind of place that made you feel like your love story mattered. I'd reserved the corner booth 2 weeks ago, ordered the same champagne we toasted with on our honeymoon. I even had roses delivered to the table, her favorite, the peach ones with red tips. It was supposed to be our 6th anniversary. I checked the time again. 8:44 p.m. I'd been sitting there since 6:55. And then, finally, I saw her, Madison, my wife, striding in with that same careless sway she used when she knew she'd already won the argument. "Seriously?" she said, sliding her bag onto the bench without even looking at me. "Why are you glaring? It's not like I planned for traffic." "I called you," I said. "For times. Work ran late. It happens. No text. No heads up. You just let me sit here like a fool?" She grabbed the champagne glass without blinking. "You're being dramatic." I leaned in, voice low. "You missed our anniversary dinner." She finally looked up, and I swear, there wasn't a trace of apology in her eyes. "Daniel, I don't need a reminder of something I wish I'd never signed up for." My stomach twisted. "What did you just say?" She exhaled slowly, like even answering me was beneath her. "I regret marrying you, okay? There. Happy now?" The air around us went dead. A couple in the next booth paused mid-bite. A waiter froze mid-step. The jazz kept playing, but suddenly it fell out of place, like it didn't belong in the same room as this moment. "You regret every day with me?" She didn't even blink. "Every single one." I sat back, letting the words settle between us. "You know," I said slowly, "I used to think you were just stressed, overworked, burnout." I reached into my coat pocket and pulled something out. My wedding ring. I placed it in the center of the table between the untouched roses and her untouched heart. "But now I see it. You're not tired. You're done." Her jaw tightened, but she stayed quiet. I stood up, buttoning my jacket with steady hands. "I don't need to be anyone's burden, Madison. Especially not yours." "Daniel, sit down. You're embarrassing yourself." I gave a small laugh. "No, I've been doing that for years, loving someone who looked right through me." She reached for my wrist. "Don't you dare make a scene." I pulled my arm back. "You already made it. You just showed up late to it." Gasps rippled around us as I turned and walked out, leaving behind champagne, roses, a ring, and the woman who thought I'd never leave. I got home and didn't turn on the lights. The apartment was too quiet, like it didn't want to admit what had just happened. I set my jacket over the back of the chair, kicked off my shoes, and sat on the edge of the bed, still dressed. I could smell the candle wax on my sleeves from the restaurant. The roses were still in my hand. I stared at them for a second, then dropped them gently into the trash. There were photos of us on the bookshelf, wedding day, honeymoon, backyard barbecues. I picked up one, her in a white dress, laughing into my shoulder. Me, smiling like the world had finally made sense. I looked happy. I wasn't pretending in that photo. I really thought we had something solid. Now, I opened my laptop, clicked into the folder I hadn't touched in months, wedding day highlights. Hundreds of pictures, edited in soft light, all smiles and vows and cake cutting. One after another. I didn't feel anything. Not anger. Not longing. Just blankness. Like the emotional volume had been turned all the way down. And then I did something that surprised even me. I picked up my phone. Took a picture of myself right there on the edge of the bed. No filter. Just me in a black button-down, sleeves rolled, collar slightly loose. The light from the hallway caught the side of my face. I didn't smile. I didn't frown. Just let the camera see me as I was. And then I posted it. Captioned it simply, "Free life of a bachelor." I tossed the phone aside after that, not even sure why I did it. Maybe it was impulsive. Maybe I wanted to feel like I was choosing something, not just reacting. That night, I didn't sleep much. Just stared at the ceiling while the clock ticked past 1 a.m., then 2, then 4. I kept expecting the grief to crash in, but it never did. The next morning, sunlight poured into the apartment like it didn't care. I sat up, rubbed my eyes, and reached for my phone. Notifications lit up the screen. Comments. Messages. Likes. Over 70 overnight. I opened the post. First comment was from Emily C., someone I barely remembered from college. "Dang, looking sharp, Daniel. Welcome back to the fun side, winking face." Then Lexi, one of my coworkers. "Took you long enough? Let's get drinks soon." Another message from Brianna. A girl I worked with at a job 3 years ago. You look good. Like, good. I kept scrolling, reading them all. Jokes, encouragement, a few subtle flirtations. No pity, no sadness, just pure energy. Something loosened in my chest. I wasn't a ghost walking through my own life anymore. I went to the mirror and really looked at myself. Same face, same lines. But for the first time in a long time, I didn't see a man who was waiting for someone to love him better. I saw a man who could love himself again. I tossed the wedding photo album into a drawer, not out of anger. Just closure. And as I stood by the window, coffee in hand, sunlight on my skin, one thought came to me clearly. This wasn't the end. This was the first real day of my life. The door slammed so hard the mirror in the hallway shook. I didn't even flinch. I was standing by the living room window, sipping my second cup of evening coffee, watching the light bleed into the clouds over the skyline. I heard her heels stomping down the hall, each step getting louder, sharper, angrier, like a warning shot I had no interest in dodging. Then came the sound of something hitting the kitchen counter. Hard. My phone. You think this is funny? Madison's voice rang out, shrill and full of heat. I didn't answer right away. I took another slow sip. You posted this? She snapped, waving the phone at me like it was a loaded weapon. Bachelor life? Really? While we're still married? I finally turned, calm as glass. Yes. Her eyes flared. You're embarrassing me. I leaned against the window frame. You embarrassed yourself the second you walked into Lucci's and told me you regretted every day with me. That was private. It was loud enough for the table next to us to stop chewing. She crossed her arms, still clutching my phone. You want attention that bad? Needing women to comment. Tell you you're still desirable? Is that what this is about, Daniel? No, I said quietly. This is about me deciding I'm done living under your thumb. She opened her mouth like she had something cutting to say, but nothing came. I kept my voice steady. This post? That photo? It's not a cry for attention. It's a boundary. A boundary, she said, scoffing. You? Since when do you even know what that means? Since last night. She rolled her eyes, circling the room like she couldn't sit still. You think one moody photo makes you some kind of liberated man? I shrugged. No, but it reminded me I don't need your permission to feel like myself again. Oh, you poor, sad man, she snapped. Is that what this is? You're throwing a tantrum because I was late to a dinner? I stepped forward, slow and measured. This isn't about dinner, Madison. This is about every moment I made space for you while you took mine. Every time I stayed quiet to keep the peace while you poked at me, belittled me, drained me. You're being dramatic. No, I said. I'm being honest. She tried to speak again, but I raised a hand. Not harshly, not loud. Just firm. You're not going to twist this. Not anymore. I let you talk over me, dismiss me, gaslight me for years. But I won't be doing that anymore. She took a step back, like she wasn't expecting the calm. You think you're the only one who's miserable? She hissed. I've been drowning in this marriage too. I nodded. Then leave. No one's stopping you. You're just going to throw it all away? I looked around the apartment, the neutral walls, the framed wedding photo still hanging by the coat rack, the dining table where we'd barely spoken in months. There's nothing left to throw. She was silent then. I watched her jaw work through 100 unsaid words. Her hands trembled a little, whether from rage or fear, I couldn't tell. Probably both. And when she finally spoke again, her voice dropped. Lower, bitter. You think those women online are going to fix what's broken in you? No, I said. They're not meant to. But they reminded me I'm not as invisible as you made me feel. She blinked, fast. I could tell she wanted to lash out. Say something cruel. Rip me apart like she used to. But I didn't give her the chance. You wanted control, Madison. You had it. You used it. And now I'm done handing it over. A long pause filled the room like smoke. She grabbed her purse off the kitchen chair. This isn't over, she muttered. I nodded once. I didn't expect it to be easy. And then, without another word, she left. No door slam this time. Just a quiet click behind her. I looked down at the phone she left on the counter. Notifications still buzzing. I didn't open any of them. I just stood there, staring at the space she used to fill, and realizing it didn't feel like a loss anymore. It felt like breathing. You're buying the first round, Jacob said, clapping me on the back as we stepped out onto the rooftop. The air up there was different, cooler, freer, with the golden haze of sunset brushing every glass tower in the city with orange fire. People mingled around us in low conversation, drinks glittering in their hands, music humming beneath the laughter. I hadn't been out like this in a while. Not since. I don't know. Maybe since Madison started calling everything that made me smile a distraction. Jacob grinned and waved down a waitress. 2 old fashions. Strong ones. I followed him to a corner couch that overlooked the skyline. The view was ridiculous, like something off a postcard. Nice spot, I muttered, easing into the seat. He kicked his feet up. Only the best for a newly emancipated man. I shook my head. It's not official yet. Doesn't matter. That post of yours. You already set fire to the bridge. Cheers to that. The drinks arrived, and we raised glasses. To freedom, he said. To remembering who the hell I am, I added. He laughed. That too. We sipped in silence for a few beats, watching the last of the sun melt behind the cityscape. Then Jacob leaned forward, grinning like he'd been holding something in all day. Okay, you need to know something, he said. What? He pulled out his phone and scrolled. So after you posted that photo, guess who texted me? I raised an eyebrow. Madison. That caught me off guard. Seriously? He nodded. Yeah. She asked if I put you up to it. Wanted to know what I've been feeding you. Like you're some lost puppy I dragged out of the pound. I huffed out a laugh. Wow. He wasn't done. Then she said, and I quote, Daniel doesn't do things like this. It's not him. I stared at him for a second. So now I'm not allowed to change? She's losing it, man. You've lived under her control for so long. She can't handle the idea of you making moves without her permission. That sat with me for a moment. Jacob leaned back and looked at me seriously. You know, I always wanted to say this, but I didn't think it was my place. Say it. He pointed at me. You've been walking around like you owe her something. For years. Like you're apologizing just by existing. It's been painful to watch. I looked down at my drink, letting his words sink in. You're not that guy anymore, he continued. And she knows it. That's why she's unraveling. I think she thought I'd come crawling back. Jacob snorted. Of course she did. That was the script in her head. You post something bold. She storms in. You feel bad. You apologize. She resets the power dynamic. I chuckled dryly. She did try. But you didn't bite. That's why she's scrambling. And honestly, it's kind of fun to watch. The sky had turned deep amber by then, with streaks of lavender curling through it like brushstrokes. I turned my head toward the horizon and just breathed. The city buzzed around us, but for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was in survival mode. You know what's weird? I said. Jacob raised an eyebrow. Besides your marriage? I smiled faintly. I don't feel broken. I thought I would, but I don't. That's because you're not. He gestured with his glass. You're finally telling the truth. And there's power in that. We sat there for a long while. No rush, no tension, no eggshells to tiptoe around. Just 2 old friends, a fading skyline, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing the ground beneath my feet finally felt solid again. As the lights of the city flickered on one by one, I leaned back and let myself smile. I wasn't trying to win anymore. I was just done losing. The envelope was small, square, and sitting on my desk when I came back from lunch. It was handwritten, oddly formal for a bunch of people who mostly communicated with emojis and reaction gifs. I opened it and immediately smiled. Housewarming this Saturday, 7 p.m. No partners this time, just you. Jillian. Jillian was one of my newer coworkers, smart, sharp-witted, and always in control of every little office event. I liked her energy. She'd seen my recent post, dropped a quiet "about time," and never asked questions. I hadn't RSVP'd to a party in years without checking with Madison first. Now I didn't have to check with anyone. Saturday rolled around, and I showed up with a bottle of wine and 0 expectations. The moment I stepped through the door, laughter, music, and warm lighting wrapped around me like a comfortable jacket. People I hadn't seen in months, some even years, turned their heads and greeted me like I'd just come back from the dead. Daniel, man, you look different, someone said. I heard that same phrase 4 times in the first hour. Different apparently meant alive. I moved through the kitchen, refilled drinks, shared quick jokes, and for once, the smile on my face wasn't polite. It was real. There was no tension in my shoulders. No invisible leash pulling me back to a phone vibrating with someone else's approval. I wasn't keeping tabs on anyone but myself. And then I heard my name again, softer this time. Daniel. I turned. There she was, Maya Rivers. I hadn't seen her since our senior year of college. Back then, she was all sunflower earrings and protest signs, the kind of girl who read poetry out loud at open mics without blinking. Now, same warmth in her smile, same calm in her voice. Maya, I breathed. Wow. It's been too long, she said, hugging me like we'd just bumped into each other yesterday. I almost didn't come tonight, but Jillian said you might be here. I figured that was the universe giving me a nudge. We ended up taking our drinks to the balcony, where string lights swayed gently overhead and soft music spilled out through the open windows. We talked. Not surface-level chatter, either. Real conversation. About the weird ways life bends, the jobs that drained us, the people who tried to control us, the ones we let. She laughed when I told her about the photo I posted. That's bold, she said, grinning. But I get it. Sometimes it takes something loud to break a silence that's been choking you. Her words hit deeper than she probably meant them to. I nodded. You ever been in something like that? Where silence wasn't peace, it was just pressure. She looked out at the skyline for a moment, then back at me. Yeah, I stayed with someone who didn't raise their voice. But they lowered mine. And it took me years to realize that's still abuse. That sat heavy between us, but not uncomfortable. Just honest. She smiled gently. You look lighter now, like someone who finally gave himself permission to exhale. I looked at her and realized I had exhaled. Not just tonight. Slowly, piece by piece, over the last week, I'd been letting go of everything I didn't realize I'd been holding. By the time we went back inside, the music had picked up, the lights felt brighter, and the air around me buzzed with something I hadn't felt in years. Not hope. Something better. Clarity. We were mid-laugh about some terrible college band we'd both pretended to love when I heard the front door slam. Not close, hard. Like it had something to prove. The party didn't stop right away, but something shifted. The music still played, glasses still clinked, but a chill seemed to slide in under the laughter. Maya's smile faded as her eyes flicked over my shoulder. Daniel, she whispered. I turned around, and there she was. Madison, in a blazer too formal for a Saturday night, hair pulled into a tight bun like she came to deliver a courtroom verdict. Her eyes scanned the crowd until they locked onto me, and I saw it. Pure rage dressed up as composure. It was the same look she wore the first time I forgot to pick up almond milk. Except now, there was an audience. Oh wow, she said loudly, striding through the room. There he is, living his best little bachelor fantasy. Conversations died like a switch had been flipped. Madison, I began, but she didn't stop. She waved her phone in the air. You think I wouldn't see it? The posts, the comments, the little party boy smile. Her eyes darted to Maya. And who's this? Rebound number one? Maya stiffened, but didn't move. I stayed exactly where I was. Madison, I said evenly, you're not supposed to be here. She laughed bitterly. Oh, sorry. Was there a velvet rope outside? Do you own this party now too? Jillian came up behind her, cautious. Hey, maybe this isn't the right place for, Madison turned on her. Oh, don't worry, I'll be gone in a second. I just wanted to congratulate the great Daniel Brooks for finally growing a spine. She turned back to me. Tell me, how long were you planning this little freedom tour? Before or after you made me look like the villain online? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't move. I just looked her in the eye and said clearly, this is why I left. It silenced the room in a way nothing else could have. Her lips parted like she had another line ready, but nothing came out. The air was thick with attention. People weren't pretending to look away anymore. The whispers had already started, spreading like cracks across glass. Madison's jaw clenched. So that's it. You're just going to humiliate me like this? You did that all on your own, I said quietly. She glanced around the room, realizing the silence wasn't sympathy, it was judgment. She looked small for the first time in years. And beneath all that fire in her eyes was fear. She blinked, swallowed, and without another word, turned on her heel and pushed past the guests. The door slammed behind her. The music crept back in a moment later. Low, hesitant. I felt every gaze on me, but no one said a word. Maya touched my arm gently. You okay? I let out a breath. Yeah, actually, I am. The lights seemed warmer again. The room, safer. And for the first time in a long, long while, I didn't feel the need to explain myself. If this part resonates, Give the video a thumbs up. It took almost an hour for the energy in the room to return to normal. People laughed again, sure, but not the same way. Not as freely. Not with me in the room. Everyone kept sneaking glances like they were waiting for an aftershock. I didn't blame them. Madison had a way of ripping the air out of a place and leaving it gasping. I stayed by the kitchen, helping Jillian with dishes neither of us really cared about. Just something to do. Something to ground the moment. Maya, for her part, gave me space. She didn't hover or pretend she wasn't affected. But she stayed close enough that I could feel it, her steadiness. Eventually, when the noise picked back up and people forgot to whisper, I walked over to her. "You want to get some air?" I asked. She looked up and nodded. "Yeah, I do." We stepped out into the backyard. It was quiet out there, the sounds of the party muffled by the sliding glass door. Lights strung between two trees flickered gently, swaying in the breeze. For a moment, we didn't say anything. I leaned against the wooden railing of the porch, watching my breath fog slightly in the cold. "She's not done," I said finally. Maya stepped beside me. "No, she's not. She's unraveling. I've seen her angry before, but this," I shook my head. "That was something else. The way she came in tonight, like she needed a scene. She needed control," Maya said quietly. "And when she realized she didn't have it anymore, she panicked." I looked over at her. "She always hated parties like this," I murmured. "Said they were shallow. That I only liked them because I wanted attention." Maya tilted her head. "Was that true?" "No," I said. "I liked them because they reminded me I was allowed to be more than just a husband. I liked remembering that people saw me." "That's not shallow," she said. "That's human." I watched her for a moment. The way the soft light played across her cheek, her hair catching in the wind. She wasn't just kind. She understood. There was a difference. "I know it's none of my business," she continued, voice gentle. "But her showing up tonight like that, screaming at you in front of your friends, that's not normal. That's someone spiraling." I nodded slowly. "She wasn't always like this," I said. "But she is now." I swallowed. "Yeah." We fell into a silence that wasn't heavy, it just was. The kind that holds space for everything that can't be solved in one breath. Then Maya turned toward me. "You don't have to carry the weight of her choices anymore, Daniel. You're not responsible for her behavior." "That's hard to believe sometimes," I admitted. "She used to make everything feel like it was my fault. Like I'd failed her." "That's manipulation," she said, without blinking. "And the fact that you still feel guilty? That's the mark of someone who tried too hard for too long." I let that sit. She stepped a little closer, her voice quieter now. "You're not broken. You're just used to being blamed." I met her eyes. "And what am I supposed to do with that?" Maya gave me the smallest smile. "You keep standing. You rebuild. And you let people fight for you this time." I breathed in slowly, then exhaled through my nose. "It's strange," I said. "I thought I'd feel more relief. More celebration. But instead I feel like I'm watching something dark unravel, and I'm not sure how far it's gonna fall." Maya didn't say anything right away. She just rested her hand lightly on my arm. "I don't think you're watching it fall," she said. "I think you're finally standing far enough away to see it." I looked down at her hand. Solid. Present. "I'm not trying to move too fast," I said quietly. "I don't even know what this is." "You don't have to know," she replied. "I'm not here to rush you." I nodded. The wind stirred again, and the trees above us rustled like they were exhaling too. "You're worth fighting for, Daniel," she added, softer now. "But only if you stop handing your life to people who use it as leverage." And for the first time in years, I didn't feel defensive when someone said that. I felt seen. It was close to midnight when I got home. The apartment was still, the kind of quiet that used to feel like loneliness, but tonight, it just felt like mine. I dropped my keys in the dish, kicked off my shoes, and sank into the couch. The soft glow from the living room lamp lit up the empty space around me. I pulled out my phone without thinking. The post I made earlier that week, still climbing in likes. A new wave of comments had rolled in after the party. People I hadn't heard from in years were suddenly dropping in with fire emojis, congratulations, freedom quotes. It was a lot. Most of it was harmless. Light. But then, between the usual, "You look good, man," and "proud of you," there was one comment that stopped my thumb cold. "It's good that you left your unfaithful wife." That was it. No emojis. No name I recognized. Just a faceless account and those 8 words. My heart didn't race. It didn't even drop. It just stilled. I clicked the profile. Private. Username, Alex, 94 work. Mutuals? None. Or so I thought, until I noticed the workplace tagged in a pinned post. Sable and Flynn Group. Madison's firm. I stared at the comment again, rereading it 3 times. Then I typed out a message. What do you mean by that? I hovered for a second, then hit send. No response. Not that night. Not the next morning either. I didn't expect one. But then, around noon the next day, a message pinged through. Can we talk in person? Cafe Brody. For PM, please don't mention this to anyone. 4 o'clock found me standing at the window of Cafe Brody, hands tucked into my jacket, eyes scanning the street. He walked in 5 minutes later. Late 20s, wiry, nervous. Short cropped hair and an anxious habit of checking over his shoulder every few seconds. Alex, I asked, stepping forward. He nodded once. Daniel. We sat near the back, away from the door. The hum of the espresso machine covered the silence between us. I shouldn't be doing this, he said, eyes flicking around again. Then why are you? He swallowed hard. Because I think you deserve to know the truth. I didn't blink. I didn't press. I let the silence do the asking. He leaned in, voice low. I work with Madison. Been there about a year. I don't know her well, but people talk, especially in open offices. And there's a guy, Cameron. He's in commercial accounts. About 10 years older than her. Married. They've been close. My stomach didn't turn. My pulse didn't spike. I just listened. People started noticing after the Miami conference, he continued. They came back different. Touchy. Private meetings. Coffee runs together. That kind of thing. You're sure? I've heard stuff. From people who've seen things. Texts. A photo or two. I never said anything because, honestly, I didn't think it was my place. But when I saw your post, something just clicked. I stared into my cup. It was cold now. Untouched. Alex looked down, fidgeting with his sleeve. I can ask around, he said. Discreetly. If there's anything real, I'll find it. You deserve that much. I met his eyes. If you're sure, then, yeah, I want to know. He nodded, stood, and left with a quiet urgency, like he'd just detonated a bomb and didn't want to be near when the smoke cleared. I sat there a long time after he left. Not because I was in shock, but because deep down, part of me had known. And now, I just wanted the truth, every inch of it. It took Alex 3 days. 3 days of silence. No updates, no texts. I tried not to check my phone every 10 minutes, but truth has a strange way of making your hands restless. Then, on the 3rd night, a message buzzed in. Got it. Check your inbox. Attached, 2 screenshots. One was a company Slack thread, late-night timestamp, casual but flirty. The other? A photo, taken at a rooftop bar, blurry but undeniable. Madison, her hand on a man's chest. Lips on his. I didn't zoom in. I didn't need to. I stared at it for maybe 5 seconds, then saved the image and deleted the message thread. No rage. No despair. Just something cold and final settling in my chest. I opened Instagram. Scrolled to the last photo I'd taken. Me on the rooftop with Jacob, the city lights behind me, a quiet smirk playing on my face. I posted it with 5 words. Finally divorced and free. No hashtags. No explanation. I left it there like a signature on the last page of a long, ugly chapter. The reactions started within minutes. Friends, coworkers, even strangers cheering me on, demeaning me like I'd just crossed some invisible finish line. But I wasn't celebrating. I was bracing. At exactly 7:43 p.m., the apartment door burst open like it had something to prove. Madison. Again. You really posted that? She snapped, waving her phone like it was proof of some crime. You're telling the whole world our business now. I stayed seated on the couch, arms folded. It's not our business anymore. You are unbelievable, she spat. Is this your new personality now? Public pity parties and passive-aggressive captions? I stood slowly, walked to the coffee table, and picked up my phone. Funny you'd call it passive-aggressive. She scoffed, pacing now. What are you even trying to prove, Daniel? That you're some kind of victim? That I'm the monster in your little freedom fantasy? No, I said, unlocking my phone. But if the shoe fits, she whirled on me. You don't get to do this. You don't get to rewrite the whole story just because you're bitter. I held up the screen. She went still. One glance at the photo, and her face drained of color. I didn't know anyone saw that, she whispered. I let the silence settle between us. Heavy. Cold. Madison took a shaky breath, stepping closer. It was one night. One stupid night at a conference, and I didn't mean for it to go anywhere. But it did. I felt disconnected, she said, voice trembling. You were pulling away, and I was lonely, and Cameron was just there. I tilted my head. So was I. She swallowed hard, tears welling up now. Daniel, please. It wasn't love. It was just a moment. No, I said firmly. It was a decision. She moved closer. I made a mistake. No, I cut in. You made a choice. Her mouth opened, then closed. She wasn't crying for what she lost. She was crying because she'd been caught. And for the first time, I didn't try to comfort her. I stepped back, out of reach. I'm not angry, I said. I'm done. She stared at me like she didn't recognize who I was. And in truth, maybe she didn't. Because the man who stood here now, he didn't flinch. He didn't fold. He let the truth hang between them, sharp and undeniable. Madison turned away, shoulders shaking. But I didn't chase her. I watched her walk out. And this time, the door didn't slam. It closed slowly, softly, like even it knew this was the end. The next morning was quiet. No banging on the door. No last-minute pleading texts. Just a knock, measured, polite. A courier. Inside the envelope, final divorce papers, her signature scrawled next to mine in a hand that looked nothing like it had the night she wrote her vows. I didn't hesitate. I signed. The pen didn't even stutter. It was strange how unceremonious it felt, ending something that once felt like forever with a ballpoint pen and a click of the lid. But it was done. Later that day, the fallout began to ripple. It started with a message from Alex. Heads up. The photos circulating internally now. By the time I checked LinkedIn, Madison's profile had gone dark. Removed from Sable and Flynn's public site. Her name erased from the executive directory. Just like that. A few texts trickled in from people we used to know. Curious ones, careful ones. Hey man, is it true what people are saying about her and Cameron? I always thought something was off with her at that firm. I didn't answer any of them. I didn't need to. The truth was taking care of itself now. It wasn't just a breakup anymore. It was a spotlight. And for once, I wasn't the one squinting into the glare. Within 2 days, Madison was no longer employed. The company issued some vague internal memo about professional boundaries and policy violations. But the whispers filled in the gaps. People love a scandal, especially when the villain is someone who once acted untouchable. Her social media went quiet. Then it got worse. Someone sent me screenshots of a dating forum. Madison's name had been mentioned. Unfaithful. Manipulative. Corporate ladder climber. It wasn't rage I felt. It wasn't vindication either. It was closure. A cold, quiet kind. The kind where you finally realize you don't have to defend yourself anymore. The facts are doing it for you. Jacob called that night. Dude, I saw the company leak. She's radioactive now. I didn't say much. He laughed. You don't need to. It's poetic. And it was. Not because she got what she deserved, but because I got what I needed. Distance. Truth. Peace. I walked to the balcony and looked out over the city. Same buildings, same lights, but everything looked different now. The weight was gone. And in its place, room to breathe. The new place had floor-to-ceiling windows and creaky hardwood floors that sang under my socks. It wasn't big, wasn't flashy, but it was mine. No scent of lavender candles I didn't choose. No framed inspirational quotes on the wall. Just quiet jazz from a speaker in the corner, a worn-in couch, and a few unpacked boxes that could wait a little longer. I set a coffee mug on the windowsill and looked out at the late morning traffic below. People moving, lives buzzing, the city breathing on without a pause. And me? I was still standing. Social media hadn't stopped since the divorce post. But now the comments were different. Not pity, not drama, just people showing up. Never seen you smile like that before. Man, your energy is different now. Brighter. You look like you finally remember who you are. And they were right. Photos filled my feed, sunlight, rooftop hangouts, spontaneous coffee runs with Jacob, Maya tagging me in memes that made me laugh out loud at work. Not everything was perfect. Some nights were still quiet in that lonely way. But even those had peace in them now. Because this wasn't emptiness anymore. This was space. Space I'd never had before. Space to think, to heal, to grow, and to finally be heard by myself. One night, Maya and I sat on my balcony, wrapped in blankets, watching the lights flicker across the skyline. She sipped her tea and leaned her head back. You ever think you'd get here? No, I said. But now I can't imagine going back. We didn't say much after that. Didn't need to. Some goodbyes aren't tragedies. Some are doorways. And mine was the beginning of life I almost forgot I deserved. And that was the end of my story. But before you go, can I ask you something? When Alex risked his job to tell me the truth about Madison, do you think he did the right thing? Or would you have stayed quiet in his place? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I really want to know. And if this story made you feel anything, hit that like button and subscribe for more.